Congress is so we had the Elon Musk came in and they gutted USAID and all these other institutions, fell short of the Pentagon, which I was upset about, but they gutted USAID, and it was a start. It was the closest thing that we've seen in my lifetime to real reform in terms of cutting government waste. And I don't like the word fraud, because when you use the word fraud, that means there was a perpetrator and the perpetrator should be arrested, but we're yet to see that. So I don't like the word fraud. Waste, by all means. Abuse, you could make the argument. But it was, in my lifetime, the closest thing at a legitimate good faith attempt to cut government waste. And the executive branch did its part. It had its contractors, Elon Musk and his DOGE crew, come in and highlight what they felt were wasteful spending. And the executive branch could make the determination, do we want to fund a transgender Sesame Street in Iraq, or do we think that maybe that $32 million could be better spent elsewhere? And that's great. The same way that Trump actually deciding to enforce the immigration policies are great. But the problem here lies in life after Trump. L-A-T. Life after Trump. LAT, we're going to call it. And the problem with LAT is if these things don't get codified by Congress 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 8 years from now, when we have a Democrat president, it may as well have been like they never happened. Because the next president can come in and undo all of these things the same way Trump did. They'll undo his undoings. Now, you would think, like I said on the Saturday Big Show when I was talking about the spending cuts that needed to come with Trump's big, beautiful bill, which I supported, by the way. Jesus Christ, some of you guys. But you would think that a bunch of self-proclaimed, and I quote, fiscal conservatives in the Republican Party would be more than happy to hop on the bandwagon of making these DOGE cuts permanent. But we're yet to see that. In fact, we're seeing reports from all over Congress that there's no desire for House Republicans to make these cuts. They don't have the political appetite for it. So keep in mind, you know how the illegal border crossings and the fentanyl that's been trafficked across our border has come to a screeching halt under Trump? If they don't go and codify that, and if they don't go and codify the $70,000 to a drag show in Argentina being cut from the spending, that stuff all comes back the second we get President Newsom or AOC. And I hate to break it to you, I know Newsom's trying to portray himself as this centrist moderate. He's not. So if these spineless, feckless, fake conservatives in the House don't get together and actually codify these objectively wasteful spending cuts, it may as well have been like they never happened in the first place. Because they're coming back, and they're coming back with a vengeance. I don't know why that's so hard. Why is that such an issue? Here's the thing, guys. If you look, there's 3 poll numbers that are real. They really tell a lot. 3 metrics: the direction of the country, congressional approval, and 2026 midterms generic House vote. So the direction of the country this last week, for the first time in 5 years, since the previous administration, Trump, the majority of Americans surveyed believe that the country is actually headed in the right direction. It's a small majority, but that's groundbreaking shit. If you look at the congressional approval, it's negative. If you look at the generic House vote for the 2026 midterms, it's either a tie or the Democrats have a slight lead. Now, when the Republicans control both houses and the White House, one would think that if people thought the country was headed in the right direction, they would also think Congress was doing a pretty okay job, but that's not the case because the majority of the things that have happened, the immigration situation getting under control, the trade, the inflation, the spending cuts, the us no longer being a laughing stock internationally, those are all coming from the executive branch. People are smarter than they used to be. They listen to shows like this one and they see through the nonsense. They know that's not coming from Congress. Congress has done nothing up until this tax cuts, which, by the way, credit where it's due, they did a good job. We needed to get the tax cuts, right? We needed to get those codified as permanent. But if Congress has a low approval rating, that means people are seeing through it. And just like what happened with our illustrious Mayor Gene Stothert, if your base does not feel you're representing them, they will stay home and you will get your asses handed to you collectively in about a year and a half. I don't think any of us want that. And this is the argument I've been having with Republican insiders about the spending cuts, is they're telling me we're going to get our asses kicked if we cut spending in the midterms. That's not popular. If we cut spending, the Democrats are going to hand us our asses. And I'm like, okay, you guys understand every now and then it is okay to have these things called principles, right? We can have principles when we govern. We don't just have to do everything with, oh my God, what do I have to do to get reelected in a year? Which is why I think that the congressional terms should be 4 years rather than 2. So these guys can actually get some shit done rather than having to worry about how am I going to answer to my constituents in a year. But sometimes it does help if we govern with principles. Because without those, we're soulless, mindless robots. We might as well just be a one-party state. Because that's the thing, is where does this stop? If we're not going to do things, if we're not going to follow along with party principles that we know the base who put us into office want, like tax cuts, like spending cuts, because we're worried that it might not be all that popular with a bunch of limp-dicked moderates a year from now, where does it stop? What if all of a sudden, and I've asked this question to multiple people now that have made this argument that we can only do what's popular because we need to save the party in the midterms. Hey, look, we're only doing what's popular right now. We're not codifying anything that might be a little bit risky right now in Congress, and we're already losing. So you might as well just go for broke, because it looks to me like if this stuff really is as popular as you're saying it is, and we're still losing, we got a real small time frame, like a year, to get our agenda through until we're fucked and the Democrats have the House and we're just going to have to sit there and be lame duck for the next 2 years. Gridlock. But where does it stop? Like, let's say that all of a sudden, let's say a couple months ago and all the deportations of the gang members and rapists were going on and the media was really running its propaganda campaign. Let's say that propaganda campaign worked. Let's say that all of a sudden the national opinion shifted on immigration and people thought it was the most inhumane, draconian, borderline fascist shit they'd ever seen in this country. And they were against it. And it was like 55-45. People really didn't like deportation. 60-40. Would you guys let MS-13 stay here? And everyone I've asked that question to has not given me a straight answer because they know it will expose them as an unprincipled hack. So while I agree not every hill is the hill we need to die on, I personally believe that not bankrupting the country on another $20 trillion in debt is a pretty good hill to die on. If we can codify some spending cuts and then lose the House but keep the Senate or vice versa, it doesn't matter. But hold it up in gridlock so the Democrats can't undo it, I think we'll be good. That's a win in my book. I told you guys, most of Trump's more ambitious agenda, like the tax cuts and everything else, we're going to have to get done in the first 2 years anyway, because the Democrats were going to come roaring back and at least take back the House. I told you that. I don't have expectations for anything beyond 2026 from this administration. I think they need to get the shit done now and then let the gun smoke settle figuratively and let the policies chill and work themselves out for the last 2 years. That was my expectation going into this. You can go back and look. I told you guys that 100 times. The clock was ticking. We got 2 years to get this stuff done or we're fucked. So let's do it now. I don't care about what's unpopular. Because if the Republicans are only going to govern off what's unpopular and not off what's popular and not what's right, then we might as well just be, like I said, a one-party state and let the Democrats run the whole show. Why are we voting you in? If you're going to turn your head on a dime the second you feel like it's not popular, like I said, among a bunch of limp dick centrists in Cincinnati, who gives a shit? I don't care if, here's my thing. If making sure the country doesn't go $50 trillion into debt comes at the cost of losing the 15th congressional district in Pennsylvania, I'll take that trade 8 days out of the week. I got no problem with that one. Sure. If codifying the immigration policies into federal law that have objectively worked under the Trump administration is going to make it so that we can't flip that 3rd district down in New Mexico on the border, which a lot of people think is in play. It's a Democrat seat right now. I'm cool with that. That's a price I'm willing to pay. Everything comes at a cost. That's a price I'm willing to pay. Because when we get this shit into law, when we codify this shit into law, it becomes very, very difficult for them to undo it. They'd have to get a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate and a majority in the House. Highly unlikely. I don't give a flying fuck what the approval ratings are of our lame duck president after 2026, guys. Doesn't matter. We knew that this was going to be 2 years. I told you priorities were for Congress were tax cuts, immigration, and spending cuts. We're 1 out of 3. The other 2 have been done through the executive branch, but the second we lose power of the White House, boom, they're right back. All the bad policies are back unless these spineless hacks, these fake conservatives, these rhinos in the House and Senate, like that closet homosexual Lindsey Graham and that geriatric turtle who just needs to fuck off finally. If those people can't grow a spine, they need to get the hell out of the way and they all need to be primaried into oblivion. Like I said, we got the tax cuts. By the way, do you know why I know the tax cuts worked? Do you know why I know they were a good policy? Because Biden and the Democrats had the White House, had the House, and had the Senate for the first 2 years of Biden's term. And they didn't even try to get rid of them because they worked. Now we're hearing that Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham might be no votes and hold the tax cuts up in the Senate. I mean, it's the way, like, you guys, you don't hate Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham enough. The way these guys have played games with your livelihood. Dude, like, if Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham hold up the Trump tax cuts becoming permanent, I mean, those people need to be tried for treason at this point with the way they've played games with us. When it comes to shipping your kids off to war, when it comes to taking money out of your pocket, when it comes to all these draconian authoritarian pieces of law that they've thrown at us, wasting taxpayer funds. Those people hate you. You might as well hate them.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to click the link in the description to get the full episode on Rumble. If you prefer to listen along, you can actually get us on Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also go to www.outlawstreamers.com to learn more about not just my show, but tons of other great shows and all the exciting projects they have coming up. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, at Caleb Salvatore Comedy on the Chinese spy app that is TikTok, and be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks, and we'll see you every Saturday for brand new episodes of That's Based. Peace.